weirdo, he's a weirdo, Mark Zuckerberg came to the White House, kissed my ass. Kissed my ass. Sure, I'd love to have dinner.
Is Mark Zuckerberg finally coming around, or is this for some ulterior motive? Mark Zuckerberg is very keen to play an active role in Trump's tech policy making, meaning he would actually serve in Trump's administration for this particular position. Now, I think Elon already has you beaten at that game. He is doing the Department of Government Efficiency, but Elon has already helped Trump tremendously, helping him win the election with free speech restored to the public square. Now, this is really something you would not expect from the big tech giant who has censored conservatives for nearly a decade. He censored a ton of information on COVID as well.
You just take some of the stuff around COVID earlier on in the pandemic, where there were, real health implications, but there hadn't been time to fully vet a bunch of the scientific assumptions. And, unfortunately, I think a lot of the kind of establishment on that, kind of waffled on a bunch of facts and, asked for a bunch of things to be censored that in retrospect ended up being, more debatable or true.
He tried to bury Hunter Biden's laptop story. And along with Jack Dorsey, he suspended Donald Trump's account following the events of January 6th. Zuckerberg has done some truly unforgivable things, treasonous things that he needs to be held accountable for, including election interference. If you are actively censoring conservatives ahead of an important election like 2020, that is conclusively election interference. There's just no question about it. This was reported back in 2021. Zuckerberg's election spending was carefully orchestrated to influence the 2020 vote, according to an ex-FEC member. What happened was there was $400 million plus that Mark Zuckerberg spent to help finance local elections to influence the 2020 vote, and recommended that all states ban private funding of election offices. A former Federal Elections Commission member said the billionaire Facebook founder's donations to a pair of nonprofits that doled out the cash to nearly 2,500 counties in 49 states violated fundamental principles of equal treatment of voters, since it may have led to unequal opportunities to vote in different areas of a state. So not only was he interfering in the election with all of the censorship, but he was directly trying to influence the vote. Very shady, very dirty stuff. So Zuckerberg knows that he is screwed now that Trump is going to be president. Like, he could be facing serious legal consequences down the road. Not only when it comes to election interference, but if you censored helpful information related to COVID, that information could have saved countless lives. Instead, people had their Instagram and Facebook accounts terminated simply for sharing this information. And we're going to revisit that momentarily, because Zuckerberg admitted that this stuff was going on right after the first assassination attempt on Donald Trump. All of this really started to change after that moment, and I actually was pleasantly surprised in this interview that Zuckerberg had where he admits how badass Trump's reaction was to the shooting. Let's take a look.
I mean, on a personal note, it's seeing Donald Trump get up after getting shot in the face and pump his fist in the air with the American flag is one of the most badass things I've ever seen in my life. But look, I mean, it's and I think, look, it's at some level as an American, it's like hard to not get kind of emotional about that spirit in that fight. And I think that's why a lot of people like the guy.
So you heard that, right? I mean, it's impressive, guys. It's very, very impressive. And it didn't really end there, folks. In the coming months, Zuckerberg would continue to admit more of the dirty things him and his company did regarding censorship. Not just praising Trump for this one moment that is undoubtedly badass. We all saw that with our own eyes. but he is admitting more of what was going on. He even back in 2022, he was doing that here on Joe Rogan. Mark Zuckerberg tells Joe Rogan that Facebook algorithmically censored the Hunter Biden laptop story for 7 days based on a general request from the FBI to restrict election misinformation, right? It was Russian disinformation. That was the narrative that the mainstream media was trying to sell us. So Zuckerberg was pressured by the FBI. This is what he said in the interview.
Things when they're a big news item that's controversial. Like there was a lot of attention on Twitter during the election because of the Hunter Biden laptop story. The New York
we
Post.
had that too.
Yeah, so you guys censored that as well?
So we took a different path than Twitter. Basically the background here is the FBI, I think, basically came to us, some folks on our team, and was like, hey, just so you know, like you should be on high alert. There was we thought that there was a lot of Russian propaganda in the 2016 election. We have it on notice that basically there's about to be some kind of dump of that's similar to that. So just be vigilant. So our protocol is different from Twitter's. What Twitter did is they said you can't share this at all. We didn't do that. What we do is we have. If something is reported to us as potentially misinformation, important misinformation, we also have this third-party fact-checking program because we don't want to be deciding what's true and false. And for I think it was 5 or 7 days when it was basically being determined whether it was false, the distribution on Facebook was decreased, but people were still allowed to share it. So you could still share it, you could still consume it.
So when you say the distribution is decreased,
it got shared.
How does that work?
It basically, the ranking in newsfeed was a little bit less. So fewer people saw it than would have otherwise. So it definitely.
By what percentage?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it's meaningful. But basically, a lot of people were still able to share it. We got a lot of complaints that was the case. Obviously this is a hyper political issue. So depending on what side of the political spectrum, you either think we didn't censor it enough or censored it way too much. But we weren't sort of as black and white about it as Twitter. We just kind of thought, hey, look, if the FBI, which I still view as a legitimate institution in this country, it's like very professional law enforcement, they come to us and tell us that we need to be on guard about something, then I want to take that seriously.
Did they specifically say you need to be on guard about that story?
No, I don't remember if it was that specifically, but it basically fit the pattern.
Yeah. So this is actually, not the first time that he was pressured by the government to, censor information. Zuckerberg says the White House pressured Facebook to censor some COVID content during the pandemic. He actually vowed that the social media giant would push back if it faced such demands. Again, this was admitted back in August 2024 after the assassination attempt. So, I think he was starting to get more assistance, more advice on how to make amends with conservatives. So far, he hasn't really, moved ahead too much on that, but at least he's starting to. In a letter to Jim Jordan, the Republican chair of the House Judiciary Committee, Zuckerberg alleges that the officials, including those from the White House, repeatedly pressured Facebook for months to take down the COVID content, including humor and satire. And we know what that means. That means memes. Yes, you'll be put in Facebook jail if you put out a meme. This is where we were at for years. This is what we were fighting against during the mandates. All sorts of propaganda, all sorts of tyranny. And these big tech giants were largely responsible for that, tyrannical behavior. But a lot of that is changing. Like I said, I think he's getting more advice as Mark Zuckerberg has entered his libertarian era. I think Zuckerberg has always been a bit of a libertarian, more of a left-wing libertarian. Don't really know what that means since he's clearly, gets so much influence from the government. The government, FBI, they have so much power and control over his platform. So from this Business Insider article, what happened was Zuckerberg hired a Republican strategist named Brian Baker, and the goal was to heal his relationship with right-wing media and operatives. Much of the animosity towards Zuckerberg trickles down from the top of the party, beginning with former President Donald Trump himself. Zuckerberg suspended his account after the events of January 6th and thus ignited the former president's anger. But Trump now seems to delight in bashing Zuckerberg, whom he threatened to imprison if he wins back the White House. But look, Donald Trump threatened to jail Zuckerberg, but they ate Thanksgiving Eve dinner together. So why was he invited? Well, like I said, he wants a seat at the table. And why is that in particular? This has left many of us wondering, can we trust this guy? And the consensus I'm seeing mostly from the right is absolutely not. What business does Zuckerberg have getting involved with Trump, let alone playing a role directly in the administration? Well, there are two plausible explanations for this. The first is that we've seen how Zuckerberg has gotten absolutely crushed by Elon Musk in the battle for free speech. If we want to call this an information war, Elon Musk is decisively the winner in all of this. And I knew that when the 2024 election cycle began, Elon Musk purchasing X was going to be a game changer. And without having X as an asset, literally something that restored free speech to the public square, I don't think Trump's victory would have been possible. I really don't, because citizen journalists took back control of the narrative. We defeated the censorship, we defeated the lies of the mainstream media, and as a result, we are taking back our country. Isn't it amazing how the lack of censorship, having free speech, can make all the difference? That being said, from Zuckerberg's standpoint and why he is on board the MAGA train, I just absolutely love this meme because it illustrates the whole situation perfectly. It's amazing. It's amazing. And this is why he's on board. He's crawling on hands and knees to have a seat at the table because it's pretty simple. If you can't beat him, join him. He knows that he has to compete with Elon. He knows that free speech is where the competition is at, and anybody that wants that is leaving Meta for X. From a competitive standpoint, from a business point of view, that is a good incentive for Zuckerberg to get on Trump's good side. The other reason, Zuckerberg could be facing serious legal consequences. This was a quote pulled directly from the book, which is called Plot Against the President. And Trump mentioned, we are watching him closely. And if he does anything illegal in this time, he will spend the rest of his life in prison, as will others who cheat in the 2024 election. He made a previous statement similar in July. All I can say is that if I'm elected president, we will pursue election fraudsters at levels never seen before, and they will be sent to prison for long periods of time. We already know who you are. Don't do it, Zuckerbucks. Be careful. Yeah, so he's not messing around, and I think that's why now Mark Zuckerberg is trying to save face. So there may actually be a silver lining to all of this. Zuckerberg has engaged in treasonous crimes. I'm not sure if he can be blackmailed per se. I don't know how much we really have on him, but maybe Trump could use him if he can be controlled. They're both businessmen. Maybe there are skills and talents that the both of them could use so that everybody wins. However, Zuckerberg has a long road to redemption, and he has yet to make up for the massive censorship campaign he led on the general public. He will have to move heaven and earth to make up for what he did. I think it's a miracle, though, that he's actually started down that path. So can he be trusted? It's a slippery slope. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Please be sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you all in another video very soon.